Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so welcome to this session. So generally, we have this Friday session for to have a practical approach to what we are trying to study as a part of our course. So this week, since it is the last week of this application development one course, and we have basically dealt with the concept of deployment of application. This week we are also trying to take it ahead and do a practical aspect of it, as in deploying an application or some more details of how deployment is done. So for the same, we will have for this session, we have our faculty today with us. So I would like to welcome Tejas sir for this practical session on week 12. And yeah, so I hope you'll get to learn a lot of things in today's session. So sir, yeah, so whenever you're ready, you can take it.
Sure, I think we can. um, I'll start with the structure and why and what of it, a bit background to the stuff that we're going to do. If you have any questions, I'll pause in between and ask for questions. So at that point, you can ask questions and we can answer, and we can do it in at multiple stages, so that you don't have to wait till the end of the session to ask for the question. Okay, so let me start with sharing my screen. Uh, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, my bandwidth is little low, so I'm not going to switch on camera or any of those currently. I'm just going to project my screen and continue from there. Okay, so if you see my screen currently, what we have uh, studied until now is an application, right? I'm just named it as Flask SQLite glitch. But we also have a general app, right? Like where we had controllers, application, and stuff, and we had two functions running. Actually, two shell programs that we had written, which was a local run, which you could see is setting up environment as development, and was most importantly running the main.py. If you look at main.py, we were actually doing nothing special. We were just running the local host, our Flask on the local host, which is 0000, and on port 8080. Now, when you start it, I've already set up the environment. So I've already done this local setup, right? And I've already done this activation. So I'm not going to reactivate again. I just want to start it at this point. Yeah. sh local run. So you can see that it's enabling the virtual environment, and it's serving the Flask app main.py. And you can also see that it's throwing an error, not an error, alert, right? Warning, this is a development server. Do not use it in production deployment. Use production WSGI server instead, right? Now, at this point, you might be interested in what is this WSGI server that we want to use in the production, right? Which is what it is recommending us to use. And we should be using WSGI server in the production. Now, what is WSGI? There are many pages that are written on WSGI. I mean, you can go read about them, but the most important one is a PEP. PEP is by the Python group or the Python community. PEP full form is Python Enhancement Proposals. PEP 333 is like deals with WSGI, which is a web server gateway interface. And there's like quite a few documentation, code examples, and things like that here. I would recommend you to read this at your own time. It's an interesting read. Also, it will make your understanding better. But let me go back and explain in simple ways how it is. Now we have, let's say, at this point there is internet, right? This is our browser, right, or user, and this is like say internet, like the in between part, and then he talks to us, right, our application wherever it is running, if you go on live and if you're production, right? Now what we're imagining is here is our Flask app, and here is our DB. Either it could be an SQLite DB or a Postgres DB, whatever you want to, right? I'm just going to call it as DB, and your Flask app talks to DB. Now, until now, we were starting this Flask app and running the debug or the development server. Now it's asking to run a WSGI server, which will sit in front of this, right? This will be our WSGI server, and so that the user talks to WSGI server, and that actually talks to our Flask app, and then the rest of them talks to as rest of the flow goes as usual. Okay, I'll just move it a little bit here to be a little more clear. Okay. Now you might be doing, what is this WSGI doing? This is like a interface that gets the HTTP request from the thing and actually transfers or calls our Flask application, and then whatever the Flask application returns, it returns in a good way that the browser can understand, right? I mean, if you otherwise run a Python program, um, its output could be terminal output, its output could be anything. Here it converts that is required for the browser to understand. Now this part will have two parts. If you go to the PEP 333, it will have two parts. One is the application framework side, which is this side, right? And the other one is the web server side, like the server side or the web server side. That will be let me just go back here. Yeah, this side, right? This side. So there is this side and there is that side. So most of them are implemented as a middleware, which means it's from server side and on the application side. Hence, this sits in the middle. So it's mostly middleware service. So that's why sometimes you'll also, hear the word like middleware, WSGI middleware, right? Instead of just WSGI. Usually, it will not be only this much. It will also be taken back, and there'll be another server in front of it. Usually we call reverse proxy, load balancer, and stuff like that. Can be reverse. I'm not going to write it here. I'm just going to write it here. Could be reverse proxy or load balancer, etc. So this usually what we use in the real world is either Apache or sometimes Nginx. You can read about them online. Both of them are like open source software. So this sits in front of it, and then it passes to this and this and this. Now, why is this useful? There are many reasons why it's useful. One, it kind of gives you like a higher protection, that it puts a barrier between your whole application and your network outside. The second thing is, let's say you had this outside and this was a Postgres, right? Server. And let's say your loads are increasing a lot, right? You have hundreds of users to thousands of users. Now you can't run with one Flask, like you can't scale with one Flask. So you might want to replicate it, like say this here, one more here. You have one more same code, same running here, and then you have this here, same thing, a replica of the same thing, and then your Nginx comes here, and but they both use the same database because the data remains in the same place. Now this actually reduces the effort by 50% or scales by 100%, right? Like until now, if we were going able to take at least 100, now we should be able to take at least 200 users, and it can go on more and more. Now what Nginx is doing here is load balancing. It can there are many algorithms to do load balancing. You could use any of them. One is called round robin, which means first request goes to this, second request comes here, third request goes, and the again after the third, if there are no more, it goes to first again, things like that. So that's where Nginx is really, really useful. Other one is it also handles SSL or HTTPS. If you're going to use HTTPS, so HTTPS termination happens here from, which means from browser. Uh, here is your user, from user till the Nginx out, it's encrypted. Post Nginx to the app, it actually decrypts using your certificate or it's a private key and sends it across. So it also kind of handles HTTPS. So the load of encryption and decryption is not on the application server, which is our WSGI, sometimes also called as application server. Now, what is this WSGI? We know what role it plays, what all that, you know, where it sits and what it does exactly. Now we want to know, is there an example or is there a software that I can use as WSGI, just like Nginx? There are many. The most popular one is called GUnicorn. You can read here, GUnicorn Green Unicorn is a Python WSGI HTTP server for Unix. It runs only on Unix. It's a pre-fork model. You don't have to worry about those things currently. I mean, if you learn Linux fundamentals, you will know how to fork the processes or threads, etc. Um, G GUnicorn, usually it's pronounced as GUnicorn. GUnicorn server is broadly compatible with various web frameworks implemented, light on resources, and fairly speedy. It works directly with many frameworks, which means without much alteration, it kind of works. So this is what we are going to use as our our WSGI server or WSGI middleware, right? So like to do that, we can go change our script and we can write another script just to try it out. Let's do that. I'll just write another script like local setup or local run. I'll just write as, um, I'll call it as production run.sh, right? Okay, I'll do all of this. I'll activate, but I won't call the environment as production. It should be called something else. But for now, hold on to this. We'll still call it in development. We'll see what else to do. Now, instead of doing this, right? GUnicorn works in a way that it needs an instance of the application, right? The way you start it is GUnicorn minus W is number of workers. myapp.app is a app instance that needs to be sent to GUnicorn to run. Now, in our case, that will be inside your main.py. Like main.py app is our app. So you will probably write it as, GUnicorn. We'll give minus W. We'll run only one worker for now. Okay. And it will be main.app. Main:\app. Now, one more thing I want to say, even before we do it, is the Flask thing. So we want to define the Flask app export. I think you would have already seen it in one of the screencasts that we are using Flask app while doing migration and stuff like that, which tells the application where does our Flask app stay. I think it's capital letters Flask app, right? Just check. Give me 1 second. Okay, I think it is Flask app. Let me just check. env variable Flask _ app. Yeah, right. You could also define that and use that, right? So that way you would actually be easy to identify the Flask app. But anyway, it shouldn't matter here because we are directly giving main. So usually it will be which module has your app, and by default it takes app. So you can just define that. So now if you run, we'll just stop this and sh, what did we name it as? Prod.sh. You can see here it still stays starting local development. That's because we are using this environment as local development, but that's okay. You can see that a starting Gunicorn listening on port 8000. We are not given any port here. You can also give a port and host address. Usually host will be 0000. Port will be whatever you want to give. Then you can access this here. You can see that there's only one worker, which means it can take only so many. Oh, let me just rerun. You can check whether it's running. Right? It is running. Okay, you can see the request, stuff like that. Okay, so now that we have done, but we have still not done one more thing, which is we're still running it as development. What is this environment development? We are using this actually in our main.py to load the configuration, right? But the problem is until now we had defined only local development and the testing configuration. I made some change here. If you see in the screencast, you will notice that in the screencast I've used secret key directly here, and in security password also directly here, right? I had put something directly. Now I have, instead of putting them in the file, I'm actually reading them from the environment, right? Why is that? Because I don't want to put any passwords, anything that is sensitive inside the code and commit. I want to read anything that is sensitive from the environment, so that whoever is the developer, they don't get to know the password keys and stuff like that, but they just still be able to develop. But when they deploy, it automatically takes the productions password and secret key and stuff like that, right? So that's one change that we have made here. And I've also, for production purpose, I've introduced one more config, just like our local development and testing, another config called production config, so that I can make necessary changes which are true to production. For example, here I put debug is equal to true, but for production I can switch it off, because you don't want to enable debug for production. Because when you enable debug for production, it might throw some sensitive values into the browser, and that could leak some of the sensitive material. So usually switch off the debug. And you change the path of the database, SQLite database here. We can even change the name of it here, because in develop we used to use testdb. In production we are using db SQLite 3. Path of it, all of this we can make it specific to production. And we have to include this in the main.py. You can see in the main.py I've imported that, and based on my environment, if my environment is production, then I'm importing production config. If my environment is testing, I'm using testing. If nothing else is, neither production nor testing is available, then I'm using local development, right? So this is how I configured the config.py. Now there are many things that we do as product to make the production safe. There is a very good site called 12 Factors. This makes all of your code deployment, code management, all of them as safe and secure. There are some processes defined. It's interesting and useful to go through them. We'll go through a couple of them. For example, code base. The code base should be tracked in a revision control, which I think if you know JIT already, I'll show you anyway, but if you use JIT already, you should be using JIT to maintain all your code. And all your dependencies are explicitly declared, which means you have to maintain, for example, a requirements text.file. All our uh, dependencies are explicitly mentioned. You can go up to the level of mentioning which version you want to use. For example, I want to use Flask 2.0.1 and Flask 2.5.1, and the rest I'm not concerned about. But if you really want to use it, you can also add very specific versions too, right? And then config, store the configs in the environment. Now, we are not storing all the configs in the environment, but anything that is important and sensitive, we are storing in the environment and using it from the environment. Rest of them are not very sensitive. Hence, we are actually putting it here. If you want, you can even put this, for example, name of the database file, even in the environment, and use os.environment to read it and put it here. I think that's a sensitive thing. Then backing up service, um, I'm not going to tell build, release, run. Um, this is not important currently. I mean, you will learn as you go process. Bigger team, you will know how to build and release. The rest of them port binding. So export services via port binding, which is what I was saying, that you can pass the port name and the host name here. Usually it is sent as H, and you always try to attach it to local host or 0000, and I can probably put -p and port 8000 as well. It's important to put that. Concurrency scale via
Sir,
process model.
I have a small doubt if I can interrupt you, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, it's about the config and the environment variables, especially with regard to the secret keys.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, let's say we are sharing our code with another person, or we are working in a team or something, or we are, like, for example, submitting the code for assessment. In that case, sir, we are how do we share these secret keys? Do we, in that case, hard code it in the project, or should we separately give it to them, or how would we go about it, sir?
So when you actually share it with the team, so there are two parts: whether you're showing for local development or you're doing for production deployment, right? If you're doing local development,
yes, sir.
Then I think you don't need to use environment. You can still build it here, because it's local development, and usually local development doesn't have any sensitive information, and usually it is shared among only developers. So probably I would say just put it here and use it. That's fine. But you should never do that for production config.
Okay. So is it okay if we can do this? Sorry.
Yes, sir. It's okay. It's okay if you do this in the config file here. You can directly embed here.
Okay, sir. We can also keep it in a separate file, and then we can just share that file for secret key file or something in the same folder and run it using
That also you can show
options.
Yes, I'll show that also. We can have a file called .env, and you can use python.env to load and then use it. But generally, for local development, this is fine too. Or if your local development is not, you still want to maintain this here, what you could do is you can put it in local run, for example, here, right?
Okay, sir.
Here is what
I had this issue during the submission of our project, sir. So in that, I had actually kept the secret keys in my own laptop. But then I think I'll have to put that file here and change the location of the executable in this local run bash script.
Correct. Yeah. So for that's okay to do it for local run. For production, we won't put it here. For example, I've shown it here, but we won't. I'll show it. I'll show it to you how do we do it in production, for example. But we usually don't do it here. So there are many ways to do it. One is actually make it available in the environment when the machine boots up. As well, only system admin will know these values, for example. None of the developers will know, because that's not their role to know. Some roles will have access to these keys and some won't. Some of the providers also use something called vault, password vault. For example, you can share a password vault file which is encrypted, and it has the keys. So when it's deploying, it'll ask for a password. You enter the password once, and it'll decrypt that and use it. But it won't store that password anywhere. It'll be just in memory. things like that. There are many ways to do it, but at least minimal is to put it in the environment and use it from the environment and not to check in the code, at least for the production and staging environment. I think local development is still okay. Okay, I'll continue with.
Thank you.
Yeah. So so this is what I was saying, dev and prod parity. Keep as much as things possible same between production and development, which means that's why I wanted not to embed here, because I wanted to keep the parity, like keep the code as much as same between the production and development, and maybe export it here in the local run rather than putting it here, right? In production, I'll tell you, I mean, many environments or many providers provide different way of entering these keys into the environment. I'll show one of the ways, right? Okay, and then the run admin management task as one of process. This, for example, is migration process and etc. We actually run it as one of the process, separate process that you would have done until now. So all these 12 are very important in terms of process. Some of them you will encounter in this course, and some of them you will encounter in the next course. Yes. So whatever is applicable, as much as possible, use them as part of your deployment. Now let's go back to our code here. So we have done that change here. Okay, so this is okay. We have already run this, so this is running, and I put all my requirements in requirement. I've already put Gunicorn. I've also put another library called python.env. I'll show it to you what it does. A standard Python library that you can pip install. But what it does is it has a function called load.env. If you really want to use this, you can call this from .env import.env in your main.py and call load.env. What it does is it loads .env files as environment variables, right? And then it sets up the environment so that you don't need to do .export, basically, like I've done here. You don't have to do this, it does automatically. Now, either you can do it manually like they have done here, or what they do is you add the .env, like if you have a .env file here, say hello to world as one of my environment files, I will just add it to a .ignore file, so this won't get checked in. So .ignore file, if you use JIT, is a file that ignores the files and it won't commit to the repository. So for example, if I do now JIT status, you can see that it's showing, there is application config, there's local run, there's virtual environment, all of this, but it's not showing .env, because if you see my my .ignore, I ignore all the environment related stuff, including I think just env as well. Yeah, see all the environment files I'm ignoring, which saves you from accidentally committing the environment variables into code, so that it won't get shared to the public. So this is another way of doing it. How we will use this in production, I'll show it to you in the next thing. All right. So those are the basic things. Now I wanted to show you to deploy on a service called Glitch. If you're not used Glitch, it is like our REPL. So give me a second. Yeah. So this is called Glitch, which is similar to REPL, but it can run a full-fledged applications, and it has dashboards and stuff. You can create a new project and do many things. Now, when you create a new project here, you can actually clone any of the existing projects I have some, I'll share you can clone and try it out, but you can also import from GitHub. So when you do import from GitHub, you need to give a repository name. What I've done is the same project that I have here have been running, which is similar to all of your project. I've committed to um, GitHub, right? And you can see there is no .env file here, or nor does it has. If I show you configuration, it has no sensitive information either, right? So this is actually quite safe for people to share with the teams, right? And when they run it, they can either set up their own sensitive environment, boot up the project, do like a migrate and do everything by themselves, and run the project locally for development. Or you can, like one of you suggested, you can share them with some specific keys saying you could use these keys, for example. Most times we also don't check in database, which is SQLite database. You can see that it's not been checked in, which we generally use it as DB directory, right? It's not checked in because we don't want to share the data as well. If somebody wants to try it out, they have to do their own migrate, create their own database, everything, and start from the beginning. Right. Now we can just give this here. So we have already seen the steps how to run in on Replit. I'm not going to do that again because you already know how to run it on Replit. But we can just see here how to run it here. Before we go there, how to run, I've added an extra file called glitch.json. This is the configuration file that Glitch uses for two steps. One is an install step, one is a start step. What does install do? Install does the setting of the application. Generally whatever we used to do in local setup. Same thing it does here. You can say Python 3 -m pip install whatever is in the requirements.txt, then sets up the export environment as production, Flask up as main, and does the Flask DB upgrade, which is creating the database and creating all the tables. Next, start is whenever your application starts or whenever Glitch starts application, it does that export env production and export Flask main, does Flask DB upgrade, can do again if there are any other migrations which has not run this time, it will run it. And then it starts the Python main unicorn main.app. This actually creates only the up till now. This step is useful if you keep adding extra modules and extra migration, because install happens only once, and every time there is a change, it starts. And this Flask DB upgrade will look for any new migrations. If there are any, it will run. After that, it will start the application using GUnicorn, right? Here you can see I have not exported any of the other environment variables. We'll do that separately. So this start is equivalent to setup, and other one is equivalent to actual prod run, right? With some changes. Okay, now let me just import this. It takes a couple of seconds because it's pulling, or what do you call it, it's cloning from here. It uses Git clone, or to clone it to the local folder, and then it does install, and then it's run. Others, do you know whether folks have learned Git or Linux internals until now, or when is that course happening?
So currently, I'm not sure if they have very deep knowledge of Git.
Okay, so maybe in the next, Git is a way to maintain versioning of your code, and GitHub is a hosted version of that, where you actually assume this is like Google Drive or Dropbox for sharing the code and maintaining versioning and changing the versioning. I'm just simplifying it a lot, but for understanding, right? And to share with the world if you want to share. Okay, now you can see that it has cloned. It has all the files here, and it has some other tabs here. Some of the important tabs are terminal and logs. Terminal gives you that apps terminal, that when it starts or runs, it shows what is happening. Gives you terminal access. In the logs, it will show you what happened. Now you can see that it's tried to run, but it's throwing an error. When it actually tries to run, it will try to run key, secret key and secret password key from environment. Since they're missing, it's throwing an error saying, I can't start, because, if it's not there, it won't start. Now we can resolve this by adding these two values into the environment, right? That can be done by, I'll just close this. There is adding to the .env file. Now glitch, just like many other Python project supports .env, like I told you. You can open this and you can add variables. Now the interesting part is whenever you share this glitch project with someone else, it shares everything except .env file and .data file. We'll folder that I'll show next. So even though you are going to add sensitive value here, it won't be shared with the rest of the world. Okay, so I'll add two values which were our secret key. Okay, and security password salt. You need to put highly random thing. So I'll going to put some values which are probably are not very random, but you can put like generate very randomized key strings and put it here, right? And I put save. If I do save of anything, it will actually restart. It will run this start thing, right? But this one had the problem with install, so it might run the install again. Let's see what's it doing. There you go. You can see that now it has run everything. It's starting, but it's some problem with migration. Create virtual table article search has not been able to run. So we can just no such module as FTS5. We can actually install the FTS5, or we can hide it at this point just to continue with the thing. Once it is run, it will also give us the details of it. Okay, let's just try to see whether it's created the SQLite file. Now, if you see our config in the production environment, oh, did we actually say production? Yes, we did. No? Yeah. Okay. If you see our config, the SQLite will be within the .data folder, right? So we can explore whether the .data folder exists and whether we have the tables there. Let's just check whether its migration has happened. I'll do ls. ls should show everything. ls -a will show even the hidden things. So here, when you do hidden things, which is .data, all the something that starts with dot in Linux or Unix environment are called hidden files. Here they are purposefully showing .env, but mostly they won't. If you do ls, you won't see any of the hidden files like this. It will be, you have to do ls -a to see the hidden files. Okay, this dot, if I go to cd.data and do ls, you can see I have a db created as part of the migration. Let's just see db. Okay, what all the config? Okay, it is db.sqlite3, correct. So now I can open this using command line tool called SQLite3. This is a command line tool to open our db.sqlite. This is how you open, and you can see the file has been opened, the database has been opened. You can do .help to see all the possible options that you can run. You can run .databases, .table, or things like that. Can do to list. Let's list the tables. That will be done by using .tables. We can see that we have created all the it has created all the tables: Alembic version, article authors, role users, article role, and user. You can even do select star from Alembic version. spelling mistake. It is usually Alembic will have only one column and one row. So it is showing that. You could do that for others also if you want to see. We usually no data because we're not inserting any data. So this part is completely run in our glitch. And where is glitch? Okay. And it has done everything. Now only problem is we have not been able to run because of FTS being not available. Let's just check what is the exact error it's throwing now. Okay, add FTS migration has not been able to run. Otherwise, it's been able to run everything else. That could be because I think the SQLite version on the glitch may not be supporting the uh, FTS5 module. Because as we know, for to run it you need to enable the FTS. Let's see whether we can enable or whether it will allow me to enable FTS, right? If it doesn't allow, then we can remove it for now and try it out. If it allows, we can try that, right? Okay, just give me a second, let me try to add it. Okay, so let me just list the modules. I will just exit this. Let me just list all the modules. Oh, no, it's not has any modules enabled. Just check all the compiled options too to see if FTS4 is there. You can see FTS3 is there, 3 parentheses is there, 4 is there. There is no FTS5 enabled. Right, I think then maybe we can't use it. We'll just remove it for now and then see. Okay, and I'll just remove the migration for FTS. If you go to the code and do versions, is this the version which does? Yeah. Okay, this also does. Okay. This is the one is the basic. Okay, I'll just remove this for a while. We can probably enable FTS5, but I'm not going to do it. I'll leave it to you to do it. But I'm just going to show how it's getting deployed. Okay, now let's see until what the migration had run. Or you can add the module here, try to add the FTS module and restart it, but I'm not going to do that now. Okay, I'm just going to go to cd.data, SQLite 3, SQLite 3, select start from Alembic version. Paste. Okay. It's run then 8718F. Okay. Okay, it's run till there. Okay, so it should be fine now. Let's see if it is. I'll just save this, save any file just to, restart it. Let's see whether it's running. It hasn't restarted because it's not been able to think of it. I'll just change something here. Just put an enter just for it to compile and rerun. right? Let's see whether it reruns. It's booting. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. Okay, let me just refresh this. Okay, let's see the logs. Status. Status seems to be okay. See the logs. This is still the old log. Okay, I'm just going to clear that. Okay, I'm going to do preview. Okay, so now you can see that it is run and you can see the preview here. I'm just going to close this. You can see the preview here. You can also open this in a separate window, preview in a new window. I mean, it's the same URL. It's generally this name, which is a random name that it gives, and .glitch.me. You can register. I mean, let's see here in the logs, or like rather terminal. What is there in our user table? Ideally, it should have nothing because we just created that. SQLite 3 dot 3, and if I do select star from users, is it users? User it is. Okay. Okay, there's nothing. Now let's try and register here. Give some random address. Let's say Fatima at IITM. I'm not validating it, so some random domain. I'm just going to say register. Okay, it has a dot comma instead of dot. Some random password, it doesn't mean anything. You can give anything. Okay, now it's been registered and it's come here. I'm not set any name. That's why I think there's no name here. But if you go to our database here and do select star from user, you can see that there is a row with user 1, Fatima as a thing, and then you can see this password. This password is hashed password. And what is the hashing based on? Hashing based on two things. One is this security password salt, and the second thing is if you see your config file, there is a hashing scheme tool has been set, which is bcrypt. Bcrypt is the way to hash the things. Hashing is converting from one form to another form where you can't reverse. Like now, if you know the password, you can get this. But if you know this, you can't get to know the password. Hence, like sometimes even if this leaks, people won't be able to decode your password or get your password without putting lots of CPU and lots of time, right? So this is how it is deployed, right? And now you have set everything. Now, if someone wants to fork this project, let's say I shared this project with someone, and if they want to make a copy of it, they can actually click on remix. What happens is, let's try remix. Now it's remixed. It's trying to come up, right? It's a different name. You can see ubiquitous shared dedication. It's still pulling, but there is a difference. Now, if you go check your env doesn't have any values. You can see, right? It just shows these are the things that you need to fill up, but it doesn't fill up because it's not copied from the other one. Hence, it's throwing internal server error. If you see your terminal, and if you do ls -a, see data, let's go to cd.data. It has db.sqlite3. Let's see db.sqlite3, what it contains. Okay, see, it doesn't have any. It doesn't have anything. You can do tables. It has only Alembic version. It has not done anything. If you migrate it now, it will have all the same as older data. It's throwing error because now it is missing this. If I put some values, it will migrate. But if you migrate, you will get just the empty tables and no other previous values. Right? I'll just save this. Let's see when it restarts. Okay, it has restarted now. Okay, it has the same problem as before. Okay, it has not done migration yet, so let it do migration. Basically, when it does, it's going to create this db.sqlite3 tables, and if it doesn't do, then of course when it does the migration, all tables are completely new and it won't have the same data as we had before. That's how I think even if you share your project, people won't be able to get your data nor your secrets if you put it in the .env file or the thing. I'll go back to my previous one. This is my last year, so my previous one was grandiose. Okay, right. So that is one way to deploy it on Glitch. There are other platforms too. I'm at some point maybe in the MAT 2, like the next course, I will probably show how to do it on a regular Unix server with domain control and stuff. Currently, we are trying to make it easy, so we're trying to show it on all hosted platforms. Other similar thing is Python Anywhere. It's also a hosted platform where actually you can give it gives you all the services, it runs the things and stuff, and then you don't have to maintain much. It kind of runs the Nginx for you. You just need to run some things behind it, right? Like similarly, if you see our thing, we are only even if you see our um, start.glitch, right? We are not running Nginx here, but we have a domain name and HTTPS and everything. How is that possible? That's possible because the glitch itself runs this much, right? The runs this much. Like if I this much, right? If I make it a different color, right? This to this is kind of run by glitch. You are only allowed to put your gunicorn, Flask app, and DB. So this is kind of maintained by the platform. Similarly, even in Python or Google App Engine, for example, another, or Heroku, for example, another platform, all of them give you this Nginx reverse proxy, domain mapping, all of that. But if you actually do it on a standard, just $5 drop DigitalOcean or any of those servers, you will have to install Nginx, do reverse proxy, all of that. I'm not going to go into that details because that's not required at this point. Now, even in Python Anywhere, it does all of those things, Nginx, all of that. And they'll give you a simple dashboard to make your own app. So usually once you log in, they give you one app for free. So you can try it out. You can click on Open Web tab. There are no apps. I can create a new app. I don't want any custom names. I just need like a built-in name, so it's fine. And it supports multiple frameworks because it's going to set up things for you. I'm going to select Flask 3.6. Just give some name. I'm not going to change anything. You can change it later, right? And next. Takes a couple of seconds because for it to do virtual environment and install all the dependencies and then do such things, it takes a couple of seconds, and then your app will be running here, right? Now to bring your own code, you can see the source code here. It's in that directory. You can go to the console. Okay, let's see. Let's go here first. So you can see WSJ configuration file also exists. Let's go to this folder. Okay, not that. Go to directory. So it has only two things. One is application.py. You can see it's hello world and similar to our my main.py. And it has another flask.app. Basically, it's similar one, but we are running this because that's the one we told we are going to run. If you go here and if you check the Python startup. Okay, this is not important. Anyway, I'll just go to dashboard or rather web. Okay. And I will just want to show this file. Okay, so here is where this is, you're just importing the Flask as app that as an application, and your WSJ framework picks up that and runs it. It's their way of doing it, but it's important to understand how they do it. Okay, now you can access the console. And here is my site already, ls you can do. It has all the files. Now, if you want to do your own, if you want to bring your own code, you can just do Git clone, right? You already have this. You can just copy this URL. If you know how to do Git, you can do Git clone, CLONE. Git clone brings the copy of that repo here, right? You can paste that here, https:// github.com/tejasgn/ whatever is the repo name. Flask is SQLite glitch. You can do that. Flask SQLite glitch, and then you can do some changes in the settings. Example, like make the Flask app to use your application instead of that one, or change your WSJ code to run it from here. And then you should be able to access your application here instead of that application. So this is another hosted platform that you can do. Heroku is another one. Heroku Cloud Platform is another one. And the other popular one is App Engine by Google. They all support Flask apps, so you should be able to use it easily, right? That's it actually at this point. If you have any questions, I'll answer. Otherwise, we kind of know how to deploy it on now on Glitch and deploy it on, Python Anywhere. And you could also try it yourself, Heroku or App Engine. App Engine, I didn't show, no? App Engine. ENGINE. You can just search for App Engine Flask app. So, you go to the direct help file. So App Engine has a very simple tutorial how to deploy a Python app on the App Engine, right? So you can go to that tutorial and check it out, right? Simple it is. You need to register for Google Cloud, which comes with free. You can try it for free. It gives you some $300 or $400 for free. So you can try to deploy it on Google App Engine. Similarly, you can try it on Heroku also. Heroku also has, I think, one application for free. So you can try. Glitch has many applications for free. The only disadvantage with Glitch is if the application is not used by anyone, it's kind of put into sleep mode. So whenever someone uses next time this URL, it takes a couple of seconds for the app to boot up and come online. They do it just to save their servers or server load. But for all the experimental applications and things like that, it is quite useful and easy. And it's also easy to debug because the tools are directly available here, and also easy to share with your friends and folks. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Adesh, if you have questions now, we can take it. Or anyone else has questions.
Yeah, sure. Sir. So yeah, so this was about deploying an application on Glitch, and all your doubts are welcome. Right? You can simply unmute, or if by any chance you're not able to unmute yourself, you can post your doubt on chat and try to deep. Okay, so this tutorial or this session will also help you to deploy your project as an application. Right? So might be helpful later on. So if any doubt is there that you want to clear, please go ahead and ask.
Also, anyway, I think this whole video will be available on YouTube, so you can rewatch it and ask the questions on Discourse too, if you have any.
Yes, sir. So that will be one way of asking.
Cool. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. If nobody has any questions, we can end the session.
Yeah.
So there are some questions in the chat, so I'll just try to pick it up. For local setup and local run, I added both .sh and .bat version to use my both Windows and Linux. Is it okay? Is there any better way to do it? It's okay. You can use .sh or .bat and to use on Windows and Linux machines. But if you have Windows 10 or above, you try to use Windows subsystem for Linux. I think it's called WSL, so that you get like a Linux environment on Windows, and that will be much easier to do development or experimentation. Then there is another question by Bhavya. Also, sir, the entire project code-based database documentation has to be zipped together and uploaded. This is for the, I think you are asking for the assignment. I think assignment Adarsh will be, I think Adarsh has already published how to submit assignment. If not, I think there'll be documentation on how to submit the whole project. I think that will be a separate thing. It's not related to this session. So maybe others you can answer it separately on Discourse because not relevant here.
Yeah. Sure. So is it about the format of videos? Because I've already answered to that.
Correct. I think you already answered it, but I was just telling you can put it on Discourse so other people know it as well. And because
Sure.
it's also not specific to this live session, right? It's more like assignment related question.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead.
Can I ask some question not related to deployment?
Go ahead quickly.
Actually, sir, to grasp the concept of this deployment, actually we have to practice this fast. So in the project in the app, I have some doubts that we have created a database.py file, which has db equal SQL alchemy. So as we are using the SQL Flask SQL alchemy instead of SQL alchemy, then why we need the base equal declarative base? So is it required, or we can remove it?
I didn't understand your question. Can you repeat again? Sorry.
Yes, sir. In the database.py file, like in the screencast, you have shown that for SQL alchemy ext dot declarative import declarative base. So is that required, or we can skip
yeah.
that?
I think you can skip that because I think we are anyway making DB is equal to SQL alchemy, right? I think that should be enough
Yes,
for
yes.
our case.
Okay.
I mean,
So
it doesn't cause any harm if it is there,
yes.
but you don't need it. Yeah.
Okay, but so is there any benefit to add this?
Not really.
There is only like 8 lines in this database.py file. So is it for scalability, or why we should like use this?
Oh, so why I put database.py as a separate thing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is there any future benefit?
So I tried to organize it in a cleaner way. So that all the database related configuration is in the database.py instead of putting it in the main.py or in the models.py. You know, one could have actually put it in main.py, but then importing that in the models.py is painful. And that's why I've tried to put it as a separate. I mean, I know there are only 5 lines or 4 lines in that. I've tried to modularize it so that logically, when you're looking for things in the code, you can look at it. Oh, all my database related settings are in the database. All my models related stuff are in the model store. That's why I kept it as separate. Sometimes it may not have any technical value as such, but it might have a significant human value in the sense when you're looking for things, when you're searching, when you're developing, you will look for things. Oh, where will I keep all the database related settings? Oh, database.py makes sense like that.
Okay, okay, got it, sir. So in future, there might be a few more lines according to the like need of the application.
Correct.
Okay, okay, sir, got it. And sir, one more thing, can you explain the like os.path.join that portion? I didn't understand it. Like in the configuration.py.
Right. So if you look at the configuration file, when you do base, there is a base directory, right? So how
Yes,
do you
sir.
get access to current directory, right? So when the Flask app runs, it doesn't know where it is running, right? Like I could be running in /home or in /home/stage or documents folder or anywhere. I want to know where my DB directory is, for example. DB directory is current directory minus minus DB directory, right? Like one up earlier. Let me just project it. Can I project? Just give me a second.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you can see this is what you're asking, right?
Sir, first the line number 2, the ABS path. So what it does?
This gives you like this is standard Python. Given any Python file, given the file, it takes its directory name and gets its absolute path. Absolute path as in the OS path. If it's in the // wherever, if you Windows, it will give C:, documents and then main.py. Let's say if you in my thing, it's in home code work as Flask SQLite DB directory, right? When I do Python DB absolute, then it gives me /home/stage/code/work/Flask SQLite glitch. That is the absolute path. And given
Okay,
for
so
this file, that
it is the absolute path of the current folder.
Yes, current file, whichever file you are
File.
accessing from. Okay.
Okay.
Now, since you are accessing it from application, right, from this folder, correct? Now,
Yes.
if you're so it will give path till application. Now I want SQLite DB library. Where is it? It's outside application and inside DB directory. So what I'm doing is I'm going out of the application and getting back into the DB directory. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir. And what is the dot dot?
Dot is going upper one directory out, like
Okay.
in Unix, like say here you are, right? I mean, you can see ls is listing of all the directory, right?
Yes.
So if you go to CD application, you're going into the application directory, right?
Yes.
Now, if you do CD dot dot, it goes one directory up, which is your outside application now, right? If I do CD dot dot again, it goes one directory up, which is into the work directory. So, and there is also another concept called dot. Dot is the current directory.
Current directory.
Dot is a one directory up. This is part of the Unix convention. Now I've done OS path join just because I could have given slash. I didn't want, you couldn't append either base directories. You could, instead of this OS join, I can do base directory, plus slash plus like that. But this may not be always, I'm trying to make it in a way that it's not, it's OS independent. Based on the OS, some OSs you might use forward, some OSs might use backward, all of that. So I've used, even though it's like, I've given it here, but it could have been made like this, right? Instead of 2, I could add 3. Then it'll all join it by the OS specific, folder separator, which will be in Unix case, it will be front slash. I think in Windows it is backward slash, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So try to make it very generic instead of actually hard coding. Otherwise, I could have done here, instead of giving this, I could have given, what is it? Like this. I could have hard coded here. Right? I didn't want to hard code because if someone else runs the code, this path might change because they might use it in some other path, right? That's why.
Yes, yes.
It will be this slash application like this. Either I could have given this, or I'm just giving the actual reading it dynamically instead of hard coding it. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay, we can close the session. I think, Adarsh, I don't think there are any more questions.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so is there a hand raised?
Yeah, there is one hand raised by Sachin. Yeah. Go ahead, Sachin.
Yes, sir. So can we use os.getCWD instead of the whole thing? Like both of them produces the same result, I guess.
You could use os.getCWD, or you can use even like, get shutil and run. There are many ways to do it. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I was just like worried, like if both of them do they produce different results?
Ideally, shouldn't. They should produce the same thing.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Here is the reference of my file that I pass on. You can try using getCWD and see what it prints.
Okay, sir.
And check it out. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
This is just one of the ways to do it. I mean, there are many ways to do this. Yeah. Okay. Is there any other questions? No, there are no other questions.
So I have like project related, assignment related question. That there is in the assignment it is told that we have to give some functionalities, additional functionalities, and we have to put the trend lines. and it should be changed in the current week, current month, or all the logs. But I have just put 1 month, like current month trend line. It is taking the current month log. So and for the entire log of other months also, I have not added that functionality. Will and just put that option as disabled, but kept that option in the like front end. So
Sure.
will it be okay? So will it be any problem in like marking?
No, it
Or I
shouldn't be a
can keep
problem. You can keep it. You can tell that, these are the additional features that we can add later, but these are the minimum that I have implemented.
Okay, sir. God, thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's close this. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, okay, sir. So I guess this is okay. We can end this session here. And I hope you all got some idea about deployment from this session. And all right, so yeah, so probably today is the last day for submitting the preliminary version of your application, right? So I hope you are working on it, and very best of luck for that. And also best of luck for upcoming exams and your final project submissions. Okay, so we'll have a next session tomorrow, 11 a.m. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. And thank you, sir. Thank you for this session.
Okay, all the best, everyone. Thank you. Bye.